In the village of Ediabo, nestled between the arms of the whispering forest and the wide belly of the Cross River, people lived by rhythms older than calendars. Roosters crowed by instinct, not schedule. The moon measured time, not clocks. And stories carried truth better than facts ever could. It was into this world that Cathy was born, on the night the sky turned its back on the earth. The eclipse had come without warning. One moment, the sun blazed down on the crimson soil of Ediabo. The next, darkness rushed across the land like a cloth thrown over a fire. Chickens fluttered into trees. Goats bleated and crashed into each other. The baobab trees threw long, confused shadows across the village square. It was a day of bad omens and strange dreams. At that very moment, under the trembling roof of a thatched hut near the yam fields, a child entered the world with a scream sharp enough to crack the stillness. Her mother, Nem, gave her life with her last breath. The midwife said she smiled just before her heart went quiet, as if she had seen something beautiful no one else could. The villagers spoke in hushed tones for weeks, born in an eclipse. Took her mother with her. Marked by darkness and light both. Mo Nsa, Nem's mother and the eldest matron in the village, wrapped the newborn in cloth dyed with indigo and charcoal, symbols of dusk and morning. Child of the third drumbeat, she whispered into the baby's tiny ear. You walk between the world that is, and the one that hides behind it. And so Cathy began her life, not as a girl, but as a question. By the time she was 17, Cathy had grown into a figure that invited both wonder and unease. She was tall and light, with skin the color of toasted cassava and eyes that held the depth of the river at night. When she walked, her steps were silent. When she spoke, it was only when necessary. The other girls wore bracelets that jingled and sang, but Cathy wore only a string of cowrie shells, tied not around her wrist, but her ankle. Cathy the strange, the market women whispered. Always watching, that one. As if the spirits are whispering in her ears. She speaks to ants, young Obi murmured. And the trees talk back. She needs a husband, a man grunted. That'll fix her oddness. But no boy dared try. Her presence unsettled them. She carried something in her gaze that felt too deep, too old. And stranger still, things happened when she was near, winds that shifted, dogs that fell silent, fires that fled unprovoked. Only Mo Nsa stood by her. Leave her be, she said. That girl hears what the rest of us have forgotten. Her ears are tuned to the other side. Cathy said nothing. But often, she would sit by the river at dusk, legs dipped in muddy shallows, and whisper to the reeds. One night, Cathy dreamed of a forest unlike the one she knew, trees leaning too close, light pulsing like a heartbeat. In that forest, under a gnarled tree, a god hummed softly. It called to her. When she woke, the dream clung to her like the scent of burnt herbs. Before dawn, she rose. She didn't wake Mo Nsa. She simply draped her shawl, took a calabash for gathering herbs, and stepped into the mist-laced forest. The trees welcomed her. The mist curled around her feet like spirits. The birds fell silent. Coolness settled, not of dew, but something more ancient. Then she saw it. At the base of a wide iroko tree, half swallowed by roots, lay a calabash. It gleamed faintly, carved with spirals, stars, and wave-like patterns. And it hummed. Not like a mosquito. Not like a drum. This hum had depth. Memory. It settled in her chest like something long forgotten finally remembered. Cathy knelt and touched it. The forest exhaled. Leaves stilled. The air shimmered. And the calabash whispered. Oh, child of the eclipse, it said. You have come. Its voice was not in her ears, but in her bones. What are you? She whispered. I am the mouth of memory. The shell that carries forgotten songs. I am the calabash of stories. And you, You are the one who listens. Cathy blinked, her chest tightening. This was not madness. This was clarity, wearing a strange voice. I dreamed of you. Because I called. The god was warm. Alive. Thrumming like a heart. Why me? Because you carry the silence of many tongues. Because you listen where others speak. And because you do not fear the voice of things that should not speak. She cradled the god. The forest watched her live. By the time Cathy returned, the sun spilled gold across the river. Smoke rose from cooking fires. The village stirred. More NSA sat slicing okra. She looked up, saw the god, and froze. So, she murmured, placing the knife down. It has found you. You knew. Your mother dreamed of the calabash before you were born. But it never came for her. I feared it might pass your time too. Cathy sat beside her. It spoke. Of course it did. It has a mouth carved by the first griot. A god that remembers all things cannot stay silent forever. What do? You listen. Not everyone is meant to speak loudly. Some are meant to carry the stories others forget. That night, Cathy lay beside the god. And when the moon reached its peak, the calabash whispered, "Would you like to hear the story of the river that loved the woman?" Cathy closed her eyes. Yes. And the story began. There was once a time when rivers could fall in love, the god said. And one did. Her name was Ediabo, daughter of the flame caller, weaver of red cloth. Her laughter made birds hush. Her dance shimmered the air. And the river Okorenesai watched her. Not with lust, but with recognition. As if it had known her soul before. In an age when spirits were bodies of mist and stars. Day by day, Ediabo returned to its banks. She bathed, sang, told stories. The river rose around her ankles like silk. Lilies bloomed in her wake. She is river called, a seer said. Her people feared it. Chained her at night. Poured salt into her bathing pot. But the river waited. And on the night of a blood moon, Ediabo vanished. No chains broken. Just footprints leading to the river's edge, and then nothing. She drowned, they said. But those who listen know, she became part of it. A soul of flame, married to a patient tide. Even now, said the god, when the moon is low and the river is still, lilies bloom where none were planted. Cathy's throat tightened. Why did you tell me this? Because you, too, are being watched by the river. And it is waiting for your answer. The next night, Cathy returned to the river and asked, "Who was my mother?" The calabash answered. She was named to the village. But her true name was Ekema, the rememberer. A bearer of memory. A living vault. She had been one of the Onokuyub, the voice keeps. Women chosen to hold the stories gods forgot. Stories that grief drowned. Stories that had no mouths left to speak. She passed that burden to you. Not just life, but the weight of echoes. Then what am I? The listener. The unforgotten. And soon, the teller. And the river responded. Not with words, but with names. Children buried in silence. Songs swallowed by war. Names never given or taken too soon. They poured into Cathy. Not to drown, but to live. And for the first time, Cathy wept for stories that weren't hers, and knew they were now hers to carry. Market they came. Cathy walked into the square with the calabash tied to her hip. She did not trade. She did not smile. She walked to the old drumming stone and began to speak. She told Ediabo's story. She named the river's true name. The crowd hushed. Even the wind listened. And when she finished, Ma NSA came and laid a hand on her shoulder. She has begun, the elder said. And all bowed their heads. From that day, Cathy was no longer Cathy the Strange. She was Cathy of the Calabash, she who carries names, voice of the forgotten. They came to her, mothers, widows, travelers, griots with no apprentices. They brought broken songs, torn memories, untold griefs. Cathy listened. And at night, the Calabash whispered stories to her. Of fire-breathing tortoises. Of stars that fell in love. Of villages that once floated in the sky. Until one night, the god asked, "Would you like to know what comes next?" Cathy whispered, "Yes." When all stories are remembered, when the forgotten are no longer lost, you will no longer carry the calabash. Why? The voice paused. Then came the answer. Because you will become it. And the river, slow and eternal, shimmered with recognition. It remembered the eclipse. It remembered the name whispered at birth. And it knew she was the one who would remember everything. Forever.